Welcome to the Cyber Call, the podcast by Ride of Boom for managed service providers looking to stay ahead in an ever-changing world of cybersecurity. Each week, we dive into the latest threats, trends, and real-world strategies to help MSPs protect their clients and grow their businesses. Let's build a safer, stronger community together.
All right, welcome back. It is really good to see you all, and I hope you all had a fantastic Thanksgiving. Today is by far one of my favorite cyber calls, and we've been doing this for 6 years. I can't believe we are in year 6. This is your 2026 business plan. Our special guest today is Gary Pica, being on the guest side of the equation. And as you all join us today, Kelvin is joining us as a special co-host. Hopefully we'll be seeing a lot more of him as a host, if we can have him come in late hours, plus 6 or 7 now, Kelvin, with our daylight savings? I don't know what it is.
I think it's 7 at this point.
7?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's about 8 p.m. your time?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah. So I appreciate you joining us. Yeah, Ed, hard to believe 6 years in the making. May will be 6 full years from hard to believe coming out of the pandemic. Isn't that strange, Gary, when you say that? 6 years?
Yeah. I have a lot of that right now, of things. I'm wondering how time went by so fast.
It is amazing. So, Gary, I always, I know we haven't had you on a little bit. I do have a banter thing I want to talk about. But in the interim of that, one thing I want to ask you, it's been a while. Bring us up to speed a little bit on, first of all, I know Pierre will be part of the conversation today, but bring us up to speed on what you're seeing coming out of the last peer group meetings. What's growth look like? What do the trends look like? How many is it now? Is it close to 1,000?
Feel the boom. Be part of the conversation at Ride of Boom 2026. Tickets on sale now. Use code CyberCallPod to save $100.
Yeah, we're right at 1,000 worldwide.
Okay. So that's a pretty good, you're going to get a pretty good segmentation and a pretty good litmus test of what's true and what's not true, right? So
yeah. I'm in a bunch of different worlds, right? Private equity as well as, our peer group. So I see at all levels. And I'll talk about 2026 when we get to the end and kind of what I see, but I've seen churn up a little bit in last couple quarters, a tweak in churn. Usually that tells me we're at the beginning of a change in business cycle historically. That comes along. Also, in general, there's just more private equity backed customers whose destiny is to get sold and do something different. New logo growth as a percentage of MRR was strong this year. It's averaging like 3.5 across the group, and this includes people. Like you always have people who sell nothing, right? So when you think about this average, or I would call them goose eggs, you go a quarter without a new logo sale. Averaging 3.5 to 3.7 across the cohorts per quarter. So multiply that by 4, it's pretty strong. So there's SMBs that are definitely buying or looking. And if you combine those two things together, what it says is the market's changed and customers now are driving what they need from a provider. And if you can't grow and change with it, they will find someone else. And that was different because mainly as MSPs, we drove their technology. It's why until the pandemic, 80% of servers in the SMB were still premise. Like when it was much different than the enterprise, because, my little saying, MSPs are awesome at a lot of things, but 2 things they're not good at is selling or doing anything. So, so I'll give some advice at the end once we get into it, but that's just some of the things that I'm seeing. One other thing I'll mention is we're going to talk about AI at the end. I'm not yet, we can measure that because we know how many tickets per month per end user get created. And we also know how many tickets close per tech happen. And we track that across that big base. And we're not seeing the improvements except in certain cohorts who've been really focused on it in terms of the throughput of that efficiency. And
and I know I have a question here. I'm really interested in, I think people are as well. When it comes to AI, Gary, is it like you used to say, I remember you, I can hear it because I was with you for 5 awesome years, learning, growing, how RMM was for, you used to tell MSPs, RMM's for you, it's not for the customer. So the question becomes, is AI first for MSPs to gain efficiencies in their business? Is it something to take to market because we have so many companies out there, right? Like any hype cycle, hey, take us to market, sell us.
Yeah.
I'm really interested to hear your take.
Do you want to get into that now, or I was going to kind of end with that today?
Yeah, well, we can end with that. It's an interesting.
I have some thoughts, and again, I'm spending time on this with MSPs like every day, and I can see quarter to quarter at our meetings how it's progressing, and I'll give people kind of what I would do next year in this arena, or at least a perspective on how I would look at it to succeed and win.
Okay, and Calvin certainly chime in because you're living and breathing it with an 81 employee MSP. So we definitely and you got a lot of. That
sounds horrible.
Yeah, he's doing pretty good, and with 10,000 plus, MSPs and SIB, I bet you hear anecdotes too.
It's insane how much you hear through the grapevine, and everyone is doing it different at the moment because no one really has a clue on what we're doing. And I think that's the biggest thing about in regards to AI that I can say right now. Everyone is still in the messing around phase. We're still trying to figure out how are we going to sell it. Even at my MSP, like today is everything about planning. We actually had our planning session today, and we were like, yeah, and how are we going to utilize AI? And that was a question. I'm like, hold on a second. That's a question we should have been asking 2 years ago, not now, because now we're already in the phase where our clients are clamoring for something like this.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But Kelvin, I think you're fine. I think it's still early on. But now is the time. Like this year, exactly. Everyone, I kind of feel we are with it where we were with security maybe 5 or 6 years ago, where it reached the point where it had to become that lens by which you see a culture and a lens by which you see things, not just a project or a product or an offering. And that's hard to do. We saw it with security. There are some prerequisites that are similar that we'll talk about, but I think that's where we are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I was going to, I'm going to share this just in chat. I got a new computer over the weekend, and of course, lo and behold, I forgot, with the Mac to give all the permissions to the, the sharing, this, that, and the other. But Phyllis, I don't know if you saw this. This is an interesting one. I know I should have asked you before we got going. But CISA is reporting yet another backdoor, and this one seemingly pretty significant because it's and Kelvin, I don't know if you've seen this, but it's the VM vSphere and Windows environments that it seems like again why CMMC, right? This is targeting government agencies and IT sectors, and that's why I wanted to call it out to everybody on this call about this Brickstorm backdoor. Phyllis, this is something that, the, U.S. government has been, and obviously people beating the drum of foreign entities having access to our systems. Is this just more of the same? Anything takeaways on this? Any vigilance?
I mean, I think this is indicative of all kind of like these large scale attacks that we've been seeing. It's not just, I'm going to attack this one agency. I'm going to attack this one company. I'm going to attack software that everybody uses.
Yep.
Right? Like, why would I just attack one agency when I can attack them all?
That's what I would do.
Exactly. And we see this time and time again, for our community here in the MSP, it's like, our big vendors, Kaseya, or, whoever, and then, what is it? My memory is really bad today, almost every day, actually. but like
that or TeamViewer, things that are ubiquitous in some way.
Yeah, like Zoom, all those things. Like, and this is just one other thing. And so, it is important to kind of have these other controls in place, right? So either if you can't prevent, you can at least detect. Or, and I'm not familiar with this one in particular, but looking at that abnormal behavior, looking at what is it that's going on my network that's quote unquote not normal.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And when the patch comes out, patch right away.
Yeah, fair. Kelvin, anything on this one for you on the Windows environment side? I think a lot of MSPs, not all, but a lot of them have moved. I think, thanks to what VMware has done, they've
thanks
helped
to what
us
Broadcom specifically has done. Everyone has moved.
Yeah, exactly. Their pricing models have forced literally everybody off in the MSP space for the margin, but.
I've been reading about this thing because my security team sent it to me and I was like, okay, we're not impacted, so I'll just try to ignore it. Right. But then still you're getting all of these the sky is falling type of messages, and then you read it and you're like, oh no, this is super targeted. This isn't a everyone's being exploited. No, this is a very targeted thing. So I try to look at it through the scope of my MSP. Another good one is the React thing that was released last week. It turns out that everyone was making a very big fuss about it. It turns out that less than 1% of configurations are vulnerable and almost none in the MSP space, or maybe even none in the MSP space. And I'm like, you know what? For my own sanity, I'm going to start ignoring the things that don't apply, because I can be aware of them, sure, but if I keep worrying about every single exploit that exists, I will die from stress before I even retire. It's there's so much going on.
Kelvin, so let me ask one final thing. We'll get right into Gary. My final question to you is, with all the CVEs out there, right, that we have, we run scanners, we get a zillion CVEs back. Are we going to move into a phase where we're going to have to get solutions that do, in essence, exploitation, things like Horizon 3s of the world, so that we can find out what's exploitable in that 4,000 and new CVEs versus what to focus on versus how it's ranked in the CVE ranking. And
so you already have the CVE ranking, which is still the most used. Then you have the CVSS ranking, which is a much better system, because you can actually say, okay, is it exploitable currently? Is there a proof of concept out currently? The higher that one is, the more worrisome it becomes.
No doubt.
And I believe that we should slowly start letting go of hard numbers as rankings and just more look at, am I using these specific components or these specific products? But it also requires both vendors and engineers understanding more on what they're using. A good example of that is Log4j. Log4j, no one really knew if I was using it in my products, because a developer could have used it somewhere deep and no one would have been aware of it. So it's software bill of materials, all the other stuff that we've spoken out before are just getting more and more important, because we need to know what we're running to get a clearer image instead of just a number.
Well, and that's my point, as Connect Secure pointed out there, EPSS, right? We have to know we have to know what's it's not only are we running it, but are our clients, our third parties. Again, so Phyllis, I know we'll be shocked that inventory is important when it's all done. All right, let's get on into it here with Gar. All right, Gar. So I'll set the stage. I want to hear this. This is my wisdom of the week. MSPs don't fail because of ransomware; they fail because of drift, right? And they chase revenue without direction, stack tools without strategies, and they wake up 1 year later asking a dangerous question: why didn't last year change anything? So you've been at this for 30 years, 2 incredible, successful MSP exits.
Since I was 9.
Yeah, exactly. 2 MSP exits successfully, thousands of MSPs coached. Can clairvoyantly get Phyllis's phone to ring. And other things. But no, in seriousness, I wanted to give you, and I'll tell everybody, I wanted to give you a Lifetime Achievement Award, because I think you've truly had just a monumental impact on a lot of companies I know grow, exit. I've seen so many MSPs thank you for what you've done for them. So on behalf of that, I really appreciate all you've done. But this is really critical because this is where MSPs get made or break in this planning. So that's what I want to start.
Well, first off, I appreciate that. And I got to tell you, it goes into what we'll talk about today. I'm lucky enough to have influenced a lot of lives because of this process, that I had people around me, casts of characters through every one of those situations, who were on board with the vision, and they cared about it as much as I did, because me alone, I wouldn't have been able to make that kind of an impact. So it really does fit in to what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah. Awesome, Gary. All right. I have Phyllis.
Miss Phyllis.
Yeah.
Yes. Always great to see Gary back on the cyber call. So give us an overview of what your definition of business planning is, and really what should that process look like?
Yeah. So first off, I'll say I call it the webinar your 2026 business plan that I do, but it's not really the plan. It's really a planning and execution process. In other words, turning a plan into action. And to me, it's a roadmap that takes a really complex business. And for me, that's been the software business, the peer business, and the MSP business. They're all like most businesses. They're complex. A lot of things going on and hard to scale. And then being able to build a roadmap from where you want to be at different points to where you are, to know the right things to do. Because every MSP owner that I've met is busy every day. They all work hard to take care of their customers. They want to take care of their team members. They want to be a good part of their community. And yet only a percentage of them, during the time I've known them, have built thriving businesses that has given them choices and better opportunity to their teams. So it's not enough to be a hard worker, to care, to be smart, to have good intentions. And so this discussion today is not just about how to do what a business plan looks like and how to prepare for it, but it's about what that process is. And I really want people to walk away today with a feeling of where they are in this discipline compared to what we're going to talk about, and hopefully get excited to take some additional action. Because the one thing I learned is you can never be good enough at this process. I've never been, just when I think I'm starting to master it, I have something new that I'm dealing with in business that tells me that I'm not as good as I need to be with. I've only ever given myself a B in this, and I'm going to try to teach others.
And Gary's done pretty well with that B, so it's above average for sure. It's a little bit off script, but I am curious, and I don't know if you're going to cover this later. How far out should a business plan be? People always say, "Where do you want to be 5 years from now?" Is that what your business plan is? Just to scope it for people.
So it depends on where you are in your business cycle, and your age. There's a whole bunch of things, but in general, we're going to talk about 10 years. 3 years, 1 year, and 1 quarter. That's the general structure. The 10 could move in or out a little bit, but the 3, the 1, and the quarter, they're always the same. Even if you didn't plan to have your business for 3 more years, you would have a 3-year target, a 1-year plan, and a quarterly action. So that is always the same with everybody, no matter what.
Okay. Got it. That's good. So, you've had a ton of experience coaching for at least 20 years. And what role does business planning have in someone's journey? What's interesting to me is you would start a business without a business plan. I would think that would be step 0. So what do you think?
Yeah. So I like this statement. Not everyone who does a business plan fulfills their potential, but without exception, over especially the last 15 years where I got to watch peer members and track their progress each quarter, no one's fulfilled their potential without becoming good at the process that we're going to talk about. without exception. It's the only thing that I can say is the only common denominator, because other people get success in different ways. They're better at some things than others. Some things come naturally, but this is the one leveler. And if you can get better at the things, understand and get better at the things that we're going to talk about over the next, 40 minutes, you will be somewhere, you will have more choices, and you will be able to help your team and your customers in ways that you didn't think were maybe possible today. That's a bold statement.
I like it. What do you think are the barriers for someone creating a business plan and or implementing that plan?
So there's top reasons why people don't do it. And it is that like they're too busy, they're too small. I know what I need to do. That's not the problem. I just need to do it. But usually those people are stuck, at the same time when they're saying that. The other thing is they don't have enough command. We're going to talk about preparing for your plan. They don't have enough command to even be able to do a good plan. And then sometimes they think really what they develop is a budget. It's not really a plan. They just kind of know where they are, and they think that the numbers they put down of what they want to do next year is a business plan. And it's not. The only reason you do those numbers is so that you can come up with the right initiatives, the right priorities, and the right discipline around those, because that's what changes your business and eventually changes your life. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, I got a question, Gary. As MSPs, we get put offs a lot from our customers, right? It's why we have a struggle selling the right security and things that we've talked about for many years. Do you feel that lack of preparation and planning is one of the reasons we don't push back? Like, in other words, as someone like yourself, when you do play the role in sales, right, and you'll challenge people, hey, put me on the call, and you'll literally take a call. Is it because of that command? Like when people push back on, well, we're too busy, we don't need it, we're this, we're that. Does that help in
100%? Yeah, 100%. My understanding of learning this process has changed the way I have business conversations. And same with my team. Like, they're not having to be an implementer the way I am, but they're all part of it. And so they think in that same way, and it gives them that same logic when they're talking to other business people to be able to help them prioritize the right things when they don't know how, because they've not maybe learned in their business, to do that. And they're the people that need the most help. So it's the most important. Phyllis, I call this changing the tires while the car is rolling down the highway. Like, all the reasons why people don't have a plan is the reason, because your plan meets you where you are. Like, there's this thing I call the clear the deck mentality. People say to me like, even when we talk about them joining peer, I just, I have to deal with this. I just got to replace this one person or deal with this one customer. And then I'm going to be able to have time to work on my business instead of in it. I'm like, you've been in business for 12 years, dude. Like, if you think that you're going to wake up one day and say, oh, there's no tickets, there's no customer issues, there's no employee issues, I literally have nothing to do, I think I'll work on my business today. Like, that's never preposterous. That's never going to happen. The whole idea of a plan is wherever you are, that we can start based on all of our restrictions and issues that we have, taking some step so that each quarter we're somewhere a little different. And then you pick your head up in 4 or 5 quarters and you can't believe what's happened.
Can I pick on Kelvin here? Kelvin, like, as somebody that I've watched, for many years now grow, right? As, again, you're building other companies, how do you, what Gary just said, you do have to change it while it's the car's, change the wheels while the car's going. How does that resonate with you, and how have you done it?
100%. I think the biggest problem that I've seen in my MSP, and that entirely leads to not having a plan, is that in a lot of cases, we are, as an MSPs, we are too scared of our clients. We're too scared to actually have a discussion with them on what's important and what's not, because honestly, we don't know what's important and not, because we haven't planned for anything. And that was the start of my partner started the business, but I joined later. But the start of our growth was when we started accepting that, hey, our clients need our help being guided. So we need to have a plan in place for ourselves so we can actually help guide them. Without that, it just won't work. It's really if you look at long-term structure, the entire having a plan available also changes entirely how you look at your clients. I remember when we were much smaller, we were very afraid of firing any client. And then I spoke to a friend of mine that owns another large MSP here in the Netherlands, and he said the measure of a good MSP is by how many clients they've actually let go over time. Because there are a lot of MSPs holding on to clients that shouldn't be theirs at all anymore because they haven't planned for what they need to do.
Yeah, they don't have enough command to know how they're hurting themselves and their customers who really
Exactly.
care and buy into it. And we were talking in the green room, Kelvin, and when you kind of shared briefly, like, you had some growth in your business without having to add people. When I heard that, I already know you're decent at this process, because you can't get there to your scale and make those improvements unless you have command over the business and have that it running. It just doesn't happen. Like, I don't have to know anything more about you to know that you're at least competent with this.
Gary, will it even become that much more important as we shift into an era where I see, and I'm going to just use an industry term, VCSOs as an example, where we are becoming more consultative, we're becoming more like KPMGs and Accentures of the world, giving automation and AI direction. And we can, if we stay focused on just the block and tackling, that is not going to take us forward. Is it going to be even that much more critical? Understanding planning and strategic planning and growth initiatives.
Yeah, I mean, look, kind of command, execution, operational maturity, culture, those things are prerequisites for change. Again, we saw it with the people that became security first MSPs earlier on. It's the difference of, a Keith Barthold, right? Compared to other people. This is bigger and moving faster. So all those prerequisites, Andrew, are more important than they were in the past. You're not going to get there if you're not organized, not mature, and you're running at 10% true net profit after owner salary. It's not happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point.
What just came to my head as a non-business owner, one of the things that, and you all know that I heard a lot when we talked about security, like 5 years ago now, was I just have to be $5 cheaper than the person down the street per seat, right? How can I do that? And the thought just occurred to me, is that really part of your business plan? Like what you said, you have to learn to say no. No one makes it part of their business plan. I just have to be cheaper than the person down the street. But so often I would hear that, right?
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can tell you, I wouldn't be here if I wasn't 30% more than everybody else for my whole career. Like that became the reason why people bought from us. If I didn't have that, my biggest differentiator was that we cost more. If I didn't have that, I wouldn't be able to sell anybody.
I think that's so inspiring. And that really speaks to, what Kelvin was saying and what you all have always been saying is the most successful MSP is the organization that's had said no to many customers, right? Yeah. So we would say, no, I'm not going to, which takes courage. I can understand that.
It does. And this is why command, I call it command, understanding really what's happening in your business. We're going to talk about some of the things you should look at in just a few minutes. Mm-hmm. Is so critical because some of what holds people back their entire career in this business are counterintuitive. Mm-hmm. They're counterintuitive things. And we're going to uncover some of those. And once you understand them and you can set the right priorities, it's the closest thing to magic that I've seen. It makes it simple, not easy. It's never easy. Right. Okay. Right. So I want to be clear. It's hard, but it becomes less complex and more simple.
Right. That's awesome. So let's get started. So, what does a plan look like? What should people be looking for or trying to accomplish when they first get started?
So let's do it at a high level and then we can get into more details. From a high level, it is that like kind of first 10 year. I said that could be different based on things, but let's call it like a 10-year vision. And this is where if you're an entrepreneur, you're doing some soul searching about why you started the business in the first place and has it met your expectations of where you thought you would be? And for most people, the answer to that, Phyllis, is usually no. They just thought that all business owners did great, made money, grew right. Until the reality of business and life, set in. And I like to ask people have them ask themselves this question. What if this is the business you get plus or minus? Like if that was the case, and relative to your history, it may be likely, okay, even though you have big plans for the future. If you look at the past 5 years, usually a pretty good indicator unless something changes dramatically. Will you reach your long-term financial goals? And will you be able to help your team do the same? If the answer is yes, you're probably on the right track and you understand what we're talking about today. But if the answer is no, and often it is, then something has to change. Because I ask this question in a room many times when I do this live. How many people here have team members that have been with them long term and they really care about how it turns out for them in their life? And almost everybody raises their hand. And I say, well, I have bad news for you. You can't give somebody something that you don't have. Like if you don't achieve a level of financial independence, you can't help somebody else get financial security. Like you may want to, but that's what has to happen. And they're the kind of things where you want to be in your life, how important your team members are to you. They're the kind of things that provide kind of motivation and can kind of bring the future into the present, I call it. Because otherwise, one day is kind of like the next, and you're lollygagging along in the quagmire of mediocrity until finally I meet people who've been doing this for 15, 20 years and don't have the choices that they thought, and they're running out of road. And it's really a sad thing, to be able to see. It's funny. Some of the best businesses I've seen built were people that lost their biggest customer and almost put them out of business, lost their best tech who took their two best customers, put them into like dire straits where they had no choice but to get religion, to get discipline, to ask for help. And they learned the process when they had to. Had it not happened, they maybe wouldn't have gotten themselves. And that's why I'm trying to find these techniques to bring the future into the present to create that same urgency without having to go through those catastrophic events. Yeah. Some people achieve greatness, others have it thrust upon them.
It's really one story, Phyllis, that many on here know is Eric Woodard, right? He was gun to his head, right, Gary, yep. Right, yep. Phyllis, that you're going down or you're going to make it work,
right?
So.
And that guy's all in on discipline and process, man.
Yeah, he is. And what I like what you said, it's not just about I want to be $100 million. It's like also kind of like, what do you want your company to look like? What do you want your employees to look like? All that kind of.
What do you want your life to look like?
Sorry, Gary.
Like, I want to be clear. I tell my peer members, I don't really care about the MSP business or how they do in it, except to the extent that for them to live a life and help their team members have more passion, purpose, enthusiasm, to have choices as they go through their life. The vehicle that we have usually means we need a better MSP, right? But I'm not, and this goes for me too. We're all in this thing together where we're trying to make the most of our lives and our careers and get something from it and feel like we've made a difference and have a level of, have money play the right role and not be a negative thing that happens with so many people in the role in our lives. That's really it. That's what it's for. Not building the biggest or best business, just enough that we can enjoy the process, help others, and get to some finish line that we think, is acceptable.
Kelvin, you were going to say something.
Yeah, no. I was just absolutely agreeing with everything that Gary's saying. Like so many businesses are started by technicians who really want to do well, and they sort of lose track of that because of the money aspect. And if they start planning well, and if they start preparing for these things and thinking of other people's that they're hiring, their future, then technician-run businesses can really be fantastic for other technicians. It's just that the people that have started the business need to get some business sense knocked into them. It's not a natural thing that comes to technicians because they're too willing to fix everything. And a quick fix is also a fix.
Money is not the best motivator,
exactly,
like what most people think. If you don't have any, it can be a motivator. But I can tell you, I did my best work once I moved money out of the way, and I made the most money when I moved money out of the way. And it was only a result and not really the primary focus. I thought about money 5 times a year, annual planning, and once a quarter we did our plan. in between those 13 weeks of executing, money was not what I thought about. It was the plan, the mission, the team, and that's the best way to go.
That's
awesome. Actually a really good segue into the next question. This is like today I've had my planning session, and Gary and I were talking about it in the green room before. We had a little chat about it. And what do you actually think that the prep work that people should be doing to maximize their planning process? Like, how do they prepare? What do they prepare? What is key for them to really get the most out of the planning?
This is probably just this part of it before you do the plan is helpful. So I like to say there's 2 keys to success, Kelvin, in anything, whatever it is, in business or in life. 1, you have to know what to do. 2, you have to do it. That's it. It should be 2 steps. Now, it ends up being more steps because of what we got between our ears and that horrible voice that is so cruel to us and makes us think that we can't do things. But it should only be 2 steps. And most MSPs flounder or don't fulfill their potential because they never get past step 1. See, they think what they need to do is to solve problems in the business, but they don't have enough command to know the difference between a root cause and a symptom. So they fix 100 things every year, but it doesn't really impact growth and profitability, the 2 things that give opportunity to everybody involved and make you more secure, by the way, those same 2 things. So you want to think about this, right? Instead of playing whack-a-mole, really get a strong look at the business. Start with like some of the, review the current year in the categories we're going to talk about. And then also look at this year compared to last year. So year over year in all of these categories. So financial, revenue by category, both dollars and percentage. A category would be our managed service offering, our non-recurring services, what I call ORR, things that we sell monthly that is like licensing or other things that aren't in our core offering. And any other like revenue categories that you may have in your business. And then by those same categories, you want to look at gross margin. Right there, I have a lot of people the first time around that come back and say, we don't know our gross margins by that. And I'm like, well, this is your lucky day because you just figured out something that's going to change your business. Now you know one of your things you have to do. You have to reconstruct your financials and your operations so that you can start to get gross margin by category. Like that becomes your step 1. So just in your prep work, right? We make people do this benchmarking and they're like, well, I can't do this. I can't do that. I'm like, you're learning so much from not being able to do it. Like just getting to the point where you can do it is going to put you like 10 steps ahead of where you are. So gross revenue by category, profitability, both gross profit and net profit. Many people don't understand the difference and where things go above and below the line. That's another learning experience. Your balance sheet and your cash position. So like that would be what I would consider like the financial stuff. Then go on to the customer base. What's your average revenue per customer, like average MRR? That's super important. And your all-in seat price. I would look at this both for what it is today currently and what it was for the new customers that you brought on to see if you're moving in the right direction. And also your non-recurring services as a percentage of monthly incurring revenue. So now you kind of see your customer base, how good it is. Maybe look at, do you have customers that are more than 5 or 8%? You want to evaluate that because there's some risk, and the small customers or the long tail. So really dig into your customer base so that you can have part of your plan, what you want that customer base to look like 12 months from now. Does that make sense? Because we talked about this in the green room, you and I.
Yeah. That is exactly that is actually this is coming from like I said, my MSP is growing rapidly and we're having lots of fun doing it and we're being more efficient. This is exactly how we look at things. And for the smaller MSPs listening right now, this probably sounds like, oh, this is so much. This is all these things I have to do. It's actually really not that much. It's being a little bit in control of your financial data and being a little bit in control of your operational data. You don't need to deep dive into every number. I think, well, Gary can explain that more.
You don't. Yeah, you don't. And, and you don't have to do it all this quarter. I remember when I bought my second MSP, the young guy who ran it, the first meeting, he came 100 things he wanted to do that quarter. I'm like, dude, you've been in business for 7 years. You haven't done any of this shit. You think because I'm here and I don't even work in the business, we're going to get them done? Like, pick 3. He's like, I can't pick 3. I'm like, that's why we're here, And so you don't have to do everything. You have to, what are the most impactful things that you're going to find through these numbers? And you only get to do a piece of it like every quarter, because you're not going to get it done in a quarter. Like, don't even try. You'll get nothing done.
Gary, in an era where you talked about earlier, churn's up, and we know M&A is up. How critical is, measuring the relationships we have in our top 20% of customers? Meaning, I remember you did this in the second MSP. You went in and said, who do we have relationships with in our top, clients? And, if we don't have more executive relationships, we're at risk. How important is that exercise these days?
Yeah, people do these CSATs. I think that's fine. But what I look at is who do we have a relationship with the decision maker? What percent are they taking our recommendations? So what percentage of non-recurring and recurring services are they investing in as a percentage of their MRR? What are their ticket levels in terms of their tickets per month per end user? Like, how noisy or well-behaved, are they? Because these are the reasons eventually we don't have the right relationship. They're not taking our recommendations. Their environment's creating an issue, ongoing. They're the reasons why they eventually have a bad CSAT score. Usually it's too late when it hits CSAT, to me. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, like, net promoter or whatever. But I think that if you're not doing the other stuff in this business, and like operationally, I'm looking at every delivery area and the process. I'm looking at tickets per month per end user, tickets per tech, seats managed per tech, pro service effectiveness. That is telling me where I am operationally. So we looked financially, we looked customer base, operationally. Then I look at sales, what my sales results were, how much new logo I sold, how much I sold new to existing to my customer base, how many first time appointments or leads I had, what percentage of them I closed. Like, I'm taking apart my sales effort. And then finally, I'm looking at people in leadership and doing some, force rankings about where people are. So now I've looked at every aspect of my business. If I haven't done that, I can't really plan for next year. Like, if I don't know where I am, how do I point the car in the right direction?
Yeah. Kelvin, one more thing, and I'll hand it back to you. So Ed asked a great question in chat, Gary, about NRR versus MRR. Now, I remember he used to always talk about, somewhere on the month, adding a certain percent, 20 to 30 cents per dollar of MRR every month, every quarter, et cetera. Can we talk about whether it's holistically NRR and or adding? What are your thoughts there? And I'll turn it back to Kelvin. Sorry, bud.
Yeah. So with NRR, non-recurring services, we've seen that percentage come down a little bit. Like, we used to run at 30+%. Now it's more down in the 20% range, because some of the projects we're doing, we move someone to the cloud. We only do it once. But on the other side of it, what we can see is you can look at net retention. So here's my cohort of customers. Here's how much MRR, plus any price increases, plus new services they've added, minus downticks, minus churn, to see, like, can you stay above 100% so that every dollar of new logo is actually growth for your business. So that's how I would look at MRR and how I would look at NRR.
Cool.
Yeah. So this entire discussion, like you just said something about the guy that had like these 70 things to do and he had to pick 3. This actually leads me directly to the next question, because this is one that I also struggle with still sometimes. I have an amazing COO. Our operational personality is so fantastic that she picks up a lot of the slack for this for me. But it shouldn't always be that case. So I'm trying to improve in that too. How would you put a plan like this in action? How would you transform it into actual actionable items?
So this is the most important question you've asked, because it's the whole reason we look and do soul searching and a 10-year vision, and then create 3-year targets, and then a 1-year plan that includes not just goals, but initiatives, the 5 or 6 most important things we have to do in order to get to our 3-year targets, is also that we can develop a quarterly action plan. This is where we distill all of that and we decide what our goals are and what we're actually going to accomplish this quarter and commit to it. And it's usually 3 to 5 things, no more than 5. And here's the key, Kelvin. You always have 1 of 5. And that 1 of 5 means no matter what happens this quarter, the worst case scenario, things hit us that we never understood or saw coming. I mean, I got into a skiing accident. I lost my biggest customer. My best tech left. I don't care. Number 1 gets done every quarter. And hopefully over time, you'll start to get more and more of those things and break things down into pieces. If you say that, hey, we want to revamp this process across all of our customers, don't say that this quarter. Say like in this quarter, we're going to take these 10 customers and we're going to make these changes and test these changes. Then next quarter, we're going to take the next 20. Again, whether it's what you need to do for the year or what you need to do for the quarter, you don't have to get everything done in a quarter. Do things that are realistic, okay? And then use one tip that I got from a coach that I had that was life-changing. He taught me this concept of time blocking. And the idea is we all have time in the future. And I joked that this is why I stink at golf. Because in the future, I have time to golf for the past 20 years, but I have no time this week and I have no time today. So if I don't put golf on my schedule, which I haven't, okay, then I never get to it. It's the same thing with priorities. You have 13 weeks goes by fast. So you have to look out and you have to block time on your schedule and teach other people to do the same, where you're going to push those initiatives forward and be religious about it. Put a firewall around it. Because if you don't, there's always something else that's more urgent to do in your business. And Kelvin, how does this, what I'm saying, line up to what you've seen in actual real world?
Yeah, 100%. Like the biggest problem is time management for all MSPs. Everything is always on fire. That's our business. Our business is being the digital fireman of this age. And you will always have an issue everywhere. If you don't say, I'm going to make sure that I'm actually going to do this at these specific times, it's just not going to work, especially long term. And that's exactly what our COO does so wonderfully. She makes sure that nothing happens to those sacred blocks of time that happen that need to happen to actually move things forward. Because I am very technical. I love deep diving in, like when my technical guys are all surrounding one computer trying to fix an issue. I stand behind them and I go like, "What's going on? I want to know. I want to help." And they've actually learned to just stop doing what they're doing and say, "No, because you have more important things to do." Right. And that is something that we have to keep in mind as MSP owners. Long term, we have more important things to do.
And some people say, Kelvin, yeah, but that's what I like to do. That's why I got in this business. In every case, when they got good at this process, they liked it way better than what they were doing, 100%. Right? 100% of the time. No one ever got good at it, at being great at business, saying, I want to go back to turning a wrench. Never happened once.
Yeah, I remember, again, 5 years with you. You used to joke around telling business owners that you used to think you could order pizza better than everybody.
Yeah, exactly. That's what business owners think. We can order pizza better than
100%.
But we shouldn't be ordering pizza.
So that actually also leads me to my next question. As I was saying, like I'm the technical guy that loves being behind these very complex issues and that kind of stuff. But the other way around, how do we actually get engineers, help desk, operations, everyone? How do we get our teams involved into these quarterly goals, yearly goals, etc.? All of this planning. How do we get our team to really believe in it, especially? Because I think that's the most challenging part.
It is, but it's the best part once you get there. When you feel that other people are invested in your companies, that you all share like a vision and the same kind of core values. And to me, I don't think you can get there without having the kind of process that we're talking about, and then be able to bring it to them and get input and share with them where you're going. But here's the most important thing. You want to do 2 things. You want every person to be connected to what you're uniquely trying to do. As an MSP, whereas a lot of other MSPs with the same tools, we used to have this, we knew that process was our differentiator. And we had this saying, when people say, are you apples to apples? We would say, we're not fruit. Like have them feel like connected to the fact that we're not fruit. But then on the other side, whatever their individual role is, I want them to know what success looks like and how everything right down to the metrics connect to success for their team, success for the other teams in the company, for the customers. Because although the hardest lesson I had to learn early on about leadership was I made a really bad assumption that everybody wanted the same thing out of life that I did. And as it turned out, most people are more mentally healthy than me. And so that wasn't true. But I did find out there was one thing that we all shared at all levels. We all want to be part of something that's bigger than just us. We all want to know that what we do is worthy and that it makes a difference, not just on us and our families, but on our team and on our customers. But most business owners, because they don't have a great planning process, they're not able to put their people in a position to feel that way. So to me, Kelvin, all of this we do. So if you put everybody in that spot, man, you're off to the races.
Gary, there's a great book out. I don't know if you know, Belichick's Winning. He, whether you're a Patriots fan, hate Patriots, it really doesn't matter. But his book on winning really talked about his philosophy on team. I have
not read that one.
I thought there's some really good takeaways that you can apply to business, by the way. So
awesome. This is all so wonderful because it's stuff that and I think to everyone here, this is stuff that you already knew at some level. You just need it reaffirmed by other people as well, because the moment that you hear it from someone else, you start having more faith in it. It's something that always happens to me when someone explains to me exactly what I'm already doing. It just reaffirms my belief, and I start pushing forward more, and I start involving people more because I really want to make it work. And I hope that everyone that's listening today, whether you're a tiny MSP or a big MSP, it doesn't matter. Just try to really focus on getting that involvement of people, get that commitment, because they also really want to do good. I lost track of that some time ago at my MSP, where I didn't believe, like, we had some employee issues that were going on, and one of my best techs left, and I'm so happy he left because it changed everything. It was a moment for us where we actually started moving forward by making people feel committed to our goals and their own goals. That's it in a business. It is everyone's goals.
And then that culture polices itself.
Yeah.
There's no room for bad culture people. Like, your team will ferret them, will ferret them out. And, when I think back across my career, and I'm so thankful for the career that I've had, I've had frustrations and ups and downs, but I've loved every step of it. I don't think about like selling a company. I don't think about my bank account. I think about all the people. Like, that's really what it is at the end that you have left. You have customers, you have team members. Like, that's 100% of what you bring forward. And so I always tell people, if you're a business owner, you have an obligation to be good at this, because you have people that are depending upon you to feel that sense of purpose in what they do, to have some, chances for opportunity financially and growth in other ways. And so this is not just about us. Like, I feel like if you own a business, you have an obligation to be a better business person.
Yes, 100%.
I really appreciate, everything that you're saying. And before we close out about the business process, as someone who's worked for a long time for several different bosses, what I really appreciate, what you keep on saying, throughout this, so many things, is prioritization. Because how many times have I worked for a boss, especially at the National Security Agency, where everything is number one?
Yeah.
Right. Everything is a high priority. And so this
Which means nothing is.
Right. Exactly. And so then it's like, but then your workforce also kind of gets like demoralized, because it's like, well, I don't have enough time to do everything. So this idea of picking at least one thing per quarter that for sure you have to get done, I think is like, it makes sense, but seems so profound to me at the same time, because how often was it that it was like, we're going here, we're going there, everyone feels like you can't do everything really great. And then it's like, oh my gosh, but like, do one thing, finish it, do it well. I think that's gold right
and then keep doing it. Phyllis, the best business people I know aren't the people that had the best ideas. They're the people that said no the most. So in all of my companies, I have a little document that we keep. It's called really great ideas that we'll probably never do. In other words, if I gave you the idea, you'd be like, wow, that's a good idea. You should do it. But in the context of looking, it never rises to the most top 3 to 5 in any quarter. And it probably never will. We just have more important things that actually move the needle in the business. So we have a long list of awesome ideas that we'll probably never do. And if you don't have that, you're spread too thin, you're working, it looks good, you're seeing some benefits on the outside, but in terms of growth and profitability, you haven't fulfilled your potential.
Yeah. So, as we close this out, any kind of final thoughts on the business planning process you want to impart to the group?
Yeah, I would say you can't be good enough at this. So maybe pick a discipline. We teach a combination of both, but read the book Traction, the EOS book, read Scaling Up by Vern Harnish, which was what I used in my businesses. Both great, approaches. Both offer some coaches. I think business coaches are great. Just make sure that they've done what you would like to do, because there's a lot of false prophets, out there. An industry peer group. I mean, whether it's ours or another one. But I think that right now, I would not want to go through these changes coming up without being part of an industry peer group. You're just not going to figure it all out, home. So make this for this year, getting better at this. Make this one thing you're saying that I'm dedicated to getting better at. Reading, listening, doing, peer, coach, whatever it is, make a step forward, because a small amount of improvement in this discipline and execution yields the biggest results of anything else you can put your time on. And that is not my opinion. That has been my experience mentoring and coaching business leaders for, a couple decades.
So, our time is drawing to the end. Did you want to, give us any final thoughts or talk about, what folks should be doing in 26?
Yeah. So if some of what we talked about today, you're not quite there with this level of maturity, I would start there, because again, it's a prerequisite: operational maturity, business planning, discipline, execution for you to make changes. Then beyond that, look at AI and automation. And I would look at it in this way. First, start with our business. How do we digitally transform what we do? And the most natural thing is you can start with, service delivery, start with support desk. That's where everybody starts. But you got to get it everywhere, into sales, marketing, finance, administration, all aspects of your business. Because until you do, it's like securing your business first. It's going to be hard to go to customers and have that conversation with them. Then start having conversations with customers, because every one of your customers is going to some event in their industry, and some guy like me is getting on stage and telling them about how to compete. They have to be more efficient and change how they do things with AI and automation. So you want to find out what they're hearing, what they're learning. Inventory their applications. They'll be surprised how many apps they have. And then start to marry process and apps to find out, almost like we talk about BIAs, the same thing. Find out where those critical pieces are. And then when you talk to enough customers about that, and if you've done it in your business, you'll get pattern recognition, and you can start to build products and services to help them with that. You don't even have to package it first. Just go and do it and figure out what's involved. Just take everything one step at a time. Kelvin, are you with me on this approach?
100% entirely. This is, yeah. I was just saying in chat that I was pretty much paraphrasing you, but starting with just looking at your own maturity today already makes you more mature than most MSPs. And that just compounds over time. It helps everyone. So yeah, absolutely.
You hear Aaron from Chernin from Roost. He always talks about the best customers they've had with their automation platform are the ones that make it their culture. They set up a center of excellence, and they have different people from different parts of the business, including the owner, that are looking at this and helping set the priorities and accountability to make how we view efficiency and digital transformation the lens by which we see things. When you get there, you will figure out how to help your customers.
Yeah, 100%. And just this entire thing where we're talking about planning, don't make it overly complex. That's my only final thought, like, for this entire panel. It's don't make it overly complex, because it can be very simple. Less is more. Less is more, especially when you're just starting out, or when you're still only doing this alone or with a couple of people. Less is more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or as a famous person that I know said, don't shoot an ant with an elephant gun, right, Gary?
Yeah. Don't shoot an ant with an elephant gun. And if you just go out and Google me and business planning, you'll probably find 5 webinars that I've done on an MSP business plan that if you go through it, it has enough in there where you can get right on board with what we're talking about. Like, I take you through all the math, and I've been doing it for years, so you'll find them out there in your algorithm.
All right. Well, does that mean there's a Gary GPT coming, that we can have in our, right on our business?
Working on it.
All right.
Yeah, it's so that I can berate people when I'm not there into having a great business.
Too funny. Well, on behalf of the folks here at the Cyber Call, everybody out there, thanks for tuning in today. I'll get this queued up. Obviously, it'll be in video for you to watch again momentarily on YouTube. I'll get it in podcast form. You can send it to your peers, your friends. Gary, thanks for coming on as a guest today. Calvin, thanks for coming in as a co-host. It was awesome having you as always. And Phyllis, thanks for joining us. Make it a great week, everybody. We'll see you very soon. Take care.
Have a great week. Cheers.
All voices, one place. There's a session for everyone on your team at Right at Boom 2026, MGM Las Vegas, February 3rd to 6th. Join us to connect, learn, and bring back insights that matter. Use code CyberCallPod to save $100.